.com today. Welcome back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. Detoxing is one of those words you hear people throw around a few times a year. The big question this morning, what is it? How do you do it properly? And what are the benefits? Well, here's how one woman describes her detox experience with Energized Health.
I detoxed not only physically, but intellectually, emotionally, and spiritually. The last few days, I actually had kind of a traumatic experience, totally unexpected. I handled it boldly, calmly, truthfully, and I wouldn't have done that 4 months ago when I started. No matter what you're doing, if you're detoxing, to me, that helped me more than anything. I went through 2 rounds of viruses and things, getting things out of my body, and it's been great. I just suggest it for anybody.
So let's bring in the founder of Energized Health, John Jubilee, to talk a bit more about detoxing. John, it's good to see you, my friend. How do you know that you need to even start detoxing? Let's start there, and then we'll move through the process.
Well, Terrence, in this day and age, we all need a detox. Think about RFK, his whole drive. Taking on all of these food companies, Terrence, not drug companies, food companies. They're literally, all of our foods, farmers are, they're spraying all these toxins on all the food. And then the manufacturers, when they process the food, you'll see these memes pop up, Terrence, where it used to be when we were little kids growing up, there was 4 ingredients in the food, and now there's 24. What are those extra 20 ingredients? They're toxins. There's toxins in these foods. And that's why RFK is just so bent on, changing all of the food processing mechanisms. What are farmers allowed to do? What are food manufacturers? So all of us have been ingesting toxins, probably since the time, we were in grade school. And these toxins build up inside our body, and so we need to flush them out. And I like to give this word picture, Terrence, think of the power of a river, the power of a river. So if you took 10 styrofoam cups, and those represent 10 food ingredient toxins in your body, but if you throw a styrofoam cup in a river, what happens? The river just washes it away. So at Energized Health, with our patent-pending science of intracellular hydration, you have that hydration just pumping through your body, which naturally flushes out all of your toxins. Now, a lot of people, Terrence, they go and they'll buy these detox formulas, and man, they are nasty. These people are drinking and ingesting all of this crazy stuff and taking drops and drinking these concoctions, and they think that's a detox. But the reality is those have, they might have some small effect, but Terrence, you can have a lifetime effect. When you get your hydration right at the cellular level, you become like a rushing mighty river that flushes out every toxin in your body. And once your toxins are flushed out and your river is flowing, no matter what you put in, your body's going to flush it out. That's a healthy lifetime detox.
One of the things I noticed in listening to the woman whose testimony we just heard, it wasn't just about a physical detox. She was talking about the emotional and the mental part of it, that she found clarity. Can you talk a bit more about that, how a mind, body, and soul really are one?
Yes, absolutely. This is what we teach in our protocol at Energized Health, which is cellular trauma. So we all have cellular trauma. So maybe our parents got divorced, or maybe they said unkind things to us, or other people said or did unkind things to us growing up. Well, when that happens, it gets locked into us at the cellular level. And so one of the things that we absolutely believe, that God created us as a triune being. We have a body, we are a spirit, and then we have our mind, will, and our emotions. So that is the 3 parts of how we're created. Yeah. And so we absolutely have toxic things that have happened to us, and those need to be flushed out as well in our life.
All right. And you can get more information, folks, at energizedhealth.com. It's all right there on your screen. John, always good to talk to you. Energizedhealth.com. Log on right now and find out how you can begin the detoxing as well. Well, that's going to do it for us here on Real America's Voice. We appreciate you being here.
All right, touching off another explosive hour of the Steve Gruber Show, coming to you live from the heart of America in Studio G. Fighting for you and this country from the Foxhole Freedom. You can also find me on X, Truth, Rumble, TikTok as well. Make sure you follow me on all these places. Don't forget Facebook along the way. Facebook doing great stuff for us right now. And going well. Three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, George Clooney. Bill must be his brother. George Clooney now admits he was not telling the whole truth when he was making his round supporting Joe Biden for president. Now he's coming clean. Number two, Bill Maher. Bill Maher, that guy. He's going to be having dinner at the White House. A visit put together by Kid Rock so that the question of his anti-Trump attitude will be addressed.
Gotcha, you're back
and
on.
Number three, when in doubt, my friends, do drugs. Okay, I'm joking about that, but with Big Pharma pushing drugs almost continuously on TV and radio, you think that is the answer for just about anything that ails you. It might even get inside your head that you have something you don't. I mean, after all, it is advertising, right? Drugs. Do drugs. If you don't feel right, do this. Check this out. According to some, Big Pharma, I want you to hear this closely. Big Pharma provides 75% of all the ad revenue for cable TV programming. 75%. If you turn on your TV and you're watching cable of any kind, or streaming, Netflix, pick your poison, whatever it might be. If you turn on your TV, you're more than likely watching material that's been funded by Big Pharma, both in commercials and, yes, in content too. And yet, we are the sickest we've ever been. While TV programming in the United States tries to convince the American audience that it needs more drugs, Americans have become about the unhealthiest people on the planet. I mean, look around, my friends. By the way, there's only two countries in the entire world that allow drug companies to advertise on TV: the United States and New Zealand. Why do you think that is? Part of the America First agenda is about making America healthy again, and I want to focus on that today because nearly all of us agree MAHA is a very good idea. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. promised to advise President Trump against allowing Big Pharma to bankroll television programming going forward. In fact, he wants to stop it altogether. Yes, he does. Listen to this.
And, you know, one of the things I'm going to advise Donald Trump to do in order to correct the chronic disease epidemic is to ban pharmaceutical advertising on TV. There's only two countries in the world that allow pharmaceutical advertising on the airwaves. One of them is New Zealand and the other is us. And we have the highest disease rate and we buy more drugs and they're more expensive than anywhere in the world.
All right. The word is that Bobby is pushing for that right now, and I hope is able to get it done because it matters. Why? Because it doesn't benefit the American people to have companies that make money off from us being sick, controlling our airwaves and controlling the messages we are bombarded with constantly. The major news corporations are brought to you by Pfizer. Brought to you by Pfizer. They say it right out loud. Maybe they should just tell the truth and say we're bought by Pfizer to tell you what they want us to say. I mean, are we really supposed to trust what we're hearing? We all saw how that played out during the pandemic. We were told to stay inside our homes, wear masks, take drugs, get injected over and over again with experimental vaccines while they attacked the use of things like ivermectin, which actually was shown to help against the virus because that wasn't something they could make money off from. Why? Because ivermectin is cheap, dirt cheap. Oh, and by the way, there is no doubt at all it took me from being very sick with COVID to almost symptom-free in half a day. The bottom line is this. We need to kick Big Pharma out of television and stop them from advertising their drugs and planting the seeds that all of us need to be on them. We all need to be medicated. Obviously, its influence extends beyond the television. RFK Jr. had the balls to call out Bernie Sanders to his face on accepting big money from Big Pharma during his confirmation hearing. Boy, you remember this exchange. It was lovely. Here it is.
I'm to make America healthier than other countries in the world right now.
Will you guarantee do what every other major country does? That's a simple question.
And by the way, Bernie, the problem of corruption is not just in the federal agencies, it's in Congress too. Almost all the members of this panel are accepting, including yourself, are accepting millions of dollars from the pharmaceutical industry.
Oh, no,
protecting their interests.
Oh, I thought that would come. No. I ran for president like you. I got millions and millions of contributions. They did not come from the executives, not one nickel of PAC money from the pharmaceutical industry. They came from workers.
In 2020, you were the single largest
because I had
receiver of pharmaceutical money
from workers all over this country. Workers,
you were the
not a nickel from corporate PACs.
You were the single largest acceptor of pharmaceutical dollars.
No, from workers in
1.5 million.
Yeah, out of 200 million. All right, but you have not answered. Last question.
Caught red-handed. There he is, just hammered. You took more money than anyone else, Bernie. He tries to deflect, and then we'll just move on. Do you hear the panic? Bernie wants to split hairs over executives versus workers. It doesn't really matter. He's not the only one inflating his net worth with pharmaceutical dollars, padding his pocket. Like RFK Jr. said, Congress is full of political whores who are taking checks from Big Pharma every single day. Making America healthy again is not only about minimizing the influence of drugs, but focusing on the basics again, like nutrition and exercise. But it seems the big food companies are poisoning us as well and lying about it too. I mean, just look at the girth of the nation. And the FDA isn't doing much to protect us from those lies, not according to RFK Jr. anyway. Real quickly, let's hear this.
Listen, one of the things that we're doing is we've launched a review of the GRAS standards, and we're going to get rid of the GRAS standards for most products. The GRAS standards is a standard that was adopted in 1958. It was adopted because when FDA was created to regulate food, there were foods that were generally recognized as safe, GRAS, generally recognized as safe, like flour, like dairy, like eggs. And they didn't want to make companies test those products, so they created that designation. That designation was expanded by an industry that began taking advantage of it so that any new chemical that they want to add to our food is generally recognized as safe and gets no review. That's why we have 10,000 ingredients in our food in this country. In Europe, they only have 400. And we have the worst chronic disease burden of any country.
Think about that. 10,000 versus 400 ingredients. Boy, we're going to dig deeper into your salad and into your sandwich when we come back on the Steve Gruber Show. Good morning. let's talk more about what's in your food, all right? Things that include food dyes, which we know aren't safe, and other additives that allow companies to cut corners and make junk food addicting. I mean, make them pretty and sell them all, salt, sugar, and color, right? Make them pretty, make them tasty, and make them however you can, as long as you can fly them off the shelves. And speaking of junk foods, RFK Jr. has also proposed cutting candy and soda out of the $113 billion SNAP food program. SNAP, by the way, stands for Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, right? It's a safety net for families who can't put enough food on their own tables for whatever reason. But it doesn't seem to focus much on actual nutrition. If there are children in America not getting enough to eat, I'm going to tell you, the last thing they need is a Hershey bar and a jug of Mountain Dew, which, by the way, leads to Mountain Dew mouth. According to J.D. Vance and a million other people, including dentists and doctors in this country, oh, this is rough. Here it is.
My 18th birthday is in 8 days, and people look down upon me because of my teeth. As I was a kid, I was never worried about my teeth, and I would just take a pop everywhere I went, and I always had one in my hand.
And how old do you reckon you were when you had your first Mountain Dew? Like, how old?
I would probably say 2 or 3.
2 or 3 years old. 2 or 3 years old. What about freedom of choice, you ask? This is America, after all. Let's be clear, SNAP recipients always have the choice to spend their own money on whatever they choose. This isn't their money. This is yours and mine. We didn't get the choice to fund this program, but we should be able to put some guidelines on what it's used for, don't you think? Almost every other government food program, whether it's school lunches or military food programs or WIC, they have at least some nutrition standards. You have to, but SNAP, none at all. None. That's right, none. And there's no good reason for that. There's no excuse to have no guidelines. SNAP was an issue of survival. You need food. You don't need candy and soda to survive. $7 billion worth of food stamps are spent on heavily sugared drinks every year. That's 20 to 30 billion servings. 20 to 30 billion servings of soda every year that we give to the poor. And when one Mountain Dew has 45 grams of sugar or more, well, that leads to things a lot worse than your teeth rotting out of your head, like obesity and diabetes. And 75% of the foods purchased with SNAP are ultra-processed junk food, cookies, potato chips, ice cream, candy. The list goes on. The odds are these are the same people cashing in on Medicare and Medicaid on your dime as well. And with a diet like that, you're going to need a lot more medical attention than me, and a lot longer, that's for sure. Studies show that SNAP recipients have high rates of heart disease, diabetes, obesity, and early death compared to the rest of the population. Imagine that. If our public dollars are going to go somewhere, it should be for health, not harm. Makes sense, right? Make the people healthy again, right? We're back to that. It's not just big pharma seeking to control our health with big money. It's these junk food companies. We saw it firsthand this week. A number of so-called conservative influencers have been exposed for taking money to publicly trash the SNAP proposal to eliminate all this sugar. The talking points were almost identical. Claims that the proposal to cut soda out of SNAP was an attack on the freedom of choice. And many of them used a point about Donald Trump's Diet Coke button in the Oval Office as an appeal to MAGA voters. Well, it failed here. Not a single one of these so-called conservatives disclosed that they were being paid to post these viewpoints. Being paid. For me, that's dishonest, and it's a no sale. These influencers were paid by the company Influenceable. That's the name of the company, Influenceable, which acts as a middleman between lobbying groups like those connected to Pepsi and Coke, Mountain Dew, and social media influencers. It was all a manipulation campaign to get voters to side with Big Soda over Maha and over MAGA. The very agendas that they voted for in the first place. Yeah, think about that. Riley Gaines tweeted that Influenceable offered to cut her a big check for doing the same thing, but thankfully, she has this thing called integrity, and she said, I'm not interested. And influencer Eric Doherty at least had the integrity to admit the mistake, calling it egg on my face and promising it won't happen again. But how many times have we been manipulated by voices, whether on the internet or on TV, voices that are being paid by companies just like this that make money off of poisoning us, basically. This is why I think it's so important to get Big Pharma out of the advertising game. Get out. It's dishonest. We can't know when we're being manipulated. We also need to get junk food out of our schools. Our taxpayer dollars are subsidizing meals in schools that are doing the opposite of helping the next generation. The complete opposite. How do you expect these kids to focus on reading and writing when they're getting pumped full of Fruit Loops, chocolate milk, and yes, Mountain Dew and Coca-Cola at 8 in the morning? Honestly. President Trump is dismantling the Department of Education, putting Health and Human Services and RFK Jr. in charge of nutrition programs in schools. Another win for the MAHA movement. Where will HHS find the time and resources to take on school nutrition? By freeing up the waste that exists in the department with the help of DOGE, of course. That's right, DOGE working hand in hand with MAHA by helping Health and Human Services root out redundancies. Here's RFK explaining.
I'm very grateful to you and very grateful for the partnership with DOGE and with Elon. We've identified extraordinary waste in my department and HHS. The expenditures, the budget of HHS during the Biden administration went up by 38%. The employees went up by 17%, and healthcare went down. We have 40 comms departments. We have 40 procurement departments. We have 40 IT departments, and we have 40 procurement, HR, none of them talking to each other. We are, with Elon's help, eliminating the redundancies. We are streamlining our department. We're going to go back to providing gold standard science. We're going to get the money to the scientists and to the patients rather than to the administrators and to the bureaucrats. And we're going to restore gold standard science, and we're going to make America healthy again.
Yeah, that's what I voted for. I want my tax dollars going towards cancer research, not toward manipulation campaigns to sell me the 17th Pfizer jab to wash it all down with soda. We need to make America healthy again by putting America first again. I'll be right back. Well, big appointment for Alina Habba. Been a guest on this program a number of times. Really appreciate her outlook on things. President Donald Trump announcing Monday that he has installed his attorney, Alina Habba, to serve as an interim U.S. attorney for the District of New Jersey. He wants to clean that place up, too. It's the latest in a long list of former attorneys for Trump that have taken on senior roles in the DOJ. Trump said on Truth Social that he has tapped Habba, his current White House counsel, to replace outgoing acting U.S. Attorney John Giordano, whom he said would be serving as U.S. ambassador to Namibia. Lovely country, by the way, if you've not been to Namibia. I'm surprised that John Giordano's going there. Windhoek is the beautiful capital there. Both promotions announced by Trump on Monday on social media, so that's a big deal. By the way, here's something for you. History, economics, the great works of literature, or the meaning of the U.S. Constitution. Have you studied these things in school? Well, maybe if you did, it's time for a refresher course. I think that's a good idea. Look, you look around, see what people know and don't know. It's remarkable. Time and technology has changed so much, but they haven't changed the fundamental truths about our world or our place in it. Personally, I'm enjoying Hillsdale College's Constitution 101. This is a free 12-lecture course exploring the design and purpose of the United States Constitution. the challenges it faced during the Civil War and how it's been undermined for more than a century by progressives and globalists. You can take the course at your own pace whenever and wherever you'd like. And let's be honest, America needs more people like you to understand the Constitution that'll be ready to defend our freedoms against the growing reach of unaccountable government. Start Constitution 101 for free today from Hillsdale College. Go to gruberforhillsdale.com. It's no cost, no hassle, just great learning. And listen, I've been told by my friends at Hillsdale, the Gruber audience isn't taking enough courses at Hillsdale right now. Why not? You need to step up and educate yourself. gruberforhillsdale.com. gruberforhillsdale.com. Make sure you do that. Make me proud with my friends at Hillsdale. Make the Gruber crowd number one out there. Would you do that for me? gruberforhillsdale.com. Would you do that for me? I'd appreciate it. Also, follow me on X and Facebook. We have a movement here, folks, but it counts on you. We need to move the needle here every single day. If you're not following on social media, please do. What is swatting? Straight ahead. Here we go back into it now with one of my favorite people. He is my globe-trotting spy. He's been to Davos. He's been to Cairo, where he nearly got in big trouble investigating the USAID office there. They wanted to take him inside for further interrogation. He said, I don't think so. He's also been to Rome. He's been to Prague. He's been all over for us, and we appreciate it. And then he comes home where it should be safe and sound, and instead He has 5 heavily armed men on his porch in the middle of the night. Larry Alex Taunton with me now. Larry, thank you for being here, and I'm glad you are here. So here's what I want you to do first of all. Explain what swatting is for anybody that might not know.
Well, swatting, Steve, is, well, first of all, it's good to be with you. And swatting
Thankfully.
is an attempted assassination by proxy. What is happening are terrorists are using local law enforcement to as essentially as hit squads, and what an individual does is they simply call in a fake distress call on 911. In my case, claiming that there was 3 masked gunmen with rifles shooting everyone inside my home. The person claimed to be inside the home, quote, bleeding out, as they themselves had been shot. And they said, you must come inside the home. And of course, the police arrive at my house, as they would describe it, blacked out, meaning they came in silently.
Well,
and
because they don't know.
Darkness.
They get a distress call like that. They're coming in to see if they can save a life, right? They don't know what's going on. They've got this horrible thing that's been painted to them on the call. And so here they come. And we've got the footage here. It's frightening. There's 5 men, middle of the night, AR-15s. They don't have badges that I can see. Is that right?
Well, they did have badges, and you only see 3 in these videos, but 2 more guys were on the perimeter of my home. But my cameras have an what shall I say, an infrared quality that gives the impression that they're more illuminated than they were. Now, you got to bear in mind, Steve, I had been alerted by my German Shepherd Ranger something was going on before they were on my deck.
Sure.
So I was already armed inside the house. I could see them before they could see me. And at one point, you see one of these deputies testing the door to my house.
Yeah.
And I'm watching this, and I'm thinking I'm about to open fire.
So, I mean, if this person had come into your house unannounced, because, okay, they may have badges, but again, it's dark, middle of the night. They didn't announce, hey, it's the police, we're here. They didn't do that I can tell.
No, they did not do that. And it was the only reason there was an exchange of gunfire, in which I would have lost. You know, I have a Glock 19. There are 5 guys with AR-15s. I happen to see, because you can see them with flashlights.
Sure.
And I happen to see just a little glimmer of off of what I think is a badge. And then I hear them talking to each other, not exactly whispering, but not loud either. And then I again think I see what might be a uniform. And at that point, you can see in one of these videos, I turn on the light. Fellow says, you know, police department, and I say, identify yourselves. But I'm still holding my gun.
Yeah, and just so people understand, that's how frightening the interconnected world can be. Look, a Google search, somebody's any good at it, can find your address. They can find where you live, and then they call in, use a burner phone. But you get the phone call back to where you think it might have originated, right?
No, I haven't done that, but the FBI are now involved. They think that they're doing this. This is being done via sort of proxy networks on Wi-Fi, so it's much easier to hide their
originating
locations.
Where?
Is it domestic? Is it foreign? We don't know.
Don't know yet. I thought you had a better lead on that, so I guess I got. I just checked the door. You've got all these people on the porch. They're talking, not loudly, but you can hear them. You think you've seen a glint of a badge. You don't know what to make of it. You're crouched in a position inside your home with Ranger, probably still, you know, a little upset about everything that's going on. How does it come to a happy ending here?
Well, one of the very good things is Ranger really is a hero here, because I was trying to go to sleep and he was agitated and wouldn't let me. And I'm thinking, if these guys come into my house, flashlights, AR-15s, and I'm awakened, you know, from a sleep, and get my gun. I mean, who knows what happens there? But instead of me going from 0 to 60, I went from 30 to 60. So he already had me on alert. I come out, I see them there, and when I see the badge, or what I think is a badge, I turn on a light. and I tell them to identify themselves. They do, and it de-escalated from there. But some of the other conservative influencers, Steve, who have been swatted, their instance didn't go as well as mine, and so I'm very grateful that things did go well in my case.
Yeah, so let's talk about this a little bit. You called it attempted murder. That's the intention here, is to get somebody killed or at least seriously wounded, because again, you don't know. What if you had a couple of cocktails? What if you had, something going on? You don't know. Who knows, right? They're on your. What time of the day is this?
It was 1:15 a.m. according to my security cameras.
Right, 1:15 in the morning. Also, there's a bunch of armed people on your porch. I wouldn't take very kindly to that. Of these attacks, swatting attacks going on around the country. How many are you aware of?
I think so far there have been about 15 of us. We're all in communication with one another. And there's a lot of similarities in the stories. The 911 calls are very, very similar, if not almost identical. We're also looking for similarities in the issues we're covering. In my case, USAID is a theme. It's a theme with some of the other people who have been swatted, along with criticism of U.S. policy in the, at least of the previous administration in Ukraine, and support of Israel and criticism of Hamas. These are all things that we all seem to have in common. And I'm very grateful that in my case, I want to say that one of the deputies, the one who speaks up, Deputy King, he showed what I'll call country boy good sense, and I mean that not in a condescending way.
Right.
I asked him later, I said, I was not hiding the fact that I was armed. What were you thinking when you saw that? He said, I thought to myself, it was reasonable. He said, I thought I would be armed if people came upon my deck. And I think by them, they knew that they had received a bogus call.
And so it resolves itself when you make yourself known. We've only got about 60 seconds here, Larry. I just want to wrap this up for us.
Yeah, when I turn on the light and he begins to say, police department, and I'm telling them, again, holding my weapon, I'm not pointing it, but I'm telling them, identify yourselves. They did. They came to the door. I only let one of them through the door, and he began to tell me, look, we received a call out here. There was a mass shooting. Clearly not. I found what he was saying credible. It de-escalated from there. Offered to let them look around the house. They didn't feel that there was any need for that, and that's the way it ended in my case.
Yeah, so it de-escalated. Quick, got about 20 seconds left here, Larry. Advice: if somebody finds himself in this situation, what's your advice?
Well, my advice is this: home security starts with a dog. It doesn't have to be a big German Shepherd like mine. It can just be a little yappy thing, but something that alerts you that people are there. I would also say that the Second Amendment is extremely important. But if you're able, in my case, things move far too rapidly, call 911 and tell them what's going on.
There you go. Double check. Say, hey, I've got people on my porch. They're all armed. Larry, Alex Taunton, Cairo was dicey. Your home front porch, your own house, a little more dicey. Glad you're in good shape and in one piece. Larry, thank you for being here. We'll talk to you soon. Thank you for sharing.
Hey, brother, it's great to be with you.
There you have it. Can you imagine? found it is best to not look too closely when the market is correcting itself. Jumped back up yesterday by 500 points, 600 points. Had a pretty good day there. But it gives me a little bit of indigestion to ride that roller coaster of my portfolio, so I just don't look too much. Nick Hopwood leads a team of certified financial planners at Peak Wealth, working with clients in all 50 states now, and he's gotten a lot of calls over the last couple of weeks because of corrections and how to clean things up. He's joining me now. Nick, nice to have you back on the program.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
Yeah, good to have you here. All right, so it's been a bit of a bouncy ride, so where do you want to begin?
Well, let's look at this chart that we provided with the last 15 corrections, if we can.
15 corrections. All right, there it is. Well, what's it telling me?
All right, so this is the last 15 times that the S&P 500 has dropped below 10% from the previous all-time high. And what we'll notice, going back to 2008, is that only 2 times were we lower a year later. So in other words, when the market goes down 10%, it's oftentimes a really nice buying opportunity.
So it bounces back almost every time, right? It bounces back.
Yeah, basically the common theme with the 2 times in 2008 and 2022, when it didn't bounce back, it was because there was a recession and a bear market.
Right.
And I know everyone remembers 2008, and buying the dip minus 10% was very premature, as you can see.
Sure. So let me ask you this. I mean, I'm just looking at yesterday. The Dow was up 600, basically. The NASDAQ 400, the S&P 500 by 100. I mean, that all looks pretty good. The Dow at 42, almost 42.6. I mean, we're back to pretty good place, aren't we?
Yeah, we've retraced about half of that correction, so feeling much better. But it provides us an opportunity to kind of take our temperature and say, okay, we went through this over the last month. How are we feeling today? And if our risk tolerance has changed, it's a good opportunity, to reset at these levels rather than where we were about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, Howard Lufkin's been very much an optimist out there, the Commerce Secretary, billionaire. Of course, if I was a billionaire, I'd be optimistic all the time. But he seems pretty bullish on all of it, doesn't he?
He does. And when I was watching him for an hour and 45 minutes on Friday on the All In podcast, I thought it was well worth the watch and well worth the time. Of course, you have to watch it on 2x speed, because the guy's kind of chatty. But the bottom line is, when he talks about the tariffs and when he talks about the Doge, and the Doge cuts with the tariffs raising revenue, he puts together a pretty compelling case for a balanced budget over the next couple of years. And, it's been forever since we've had that. I've been talking about it on your show for 3 years now. And I never thought it would happen, but we have a chance.
Well, here's the thing. We're going to bring in $4 trillion and spend $6 trillion this year. If we can drop that down to only $1 trillion out of whack and then bring it back in another $1 trillion by the following year, we can actually, like you say, balance the budget. I mean, it's not beyond reach, especially with Doge. Now, before I get too far away from the stocks, I do know that the U.S. stocks are down, but international stocks, according to what I have read and seen and been following you as well, Nick, international stocks are up. Now, why is that?
They are. Well, there's 2 reasons in my opinion. Number one, the S&P and NASDAQ have just simply run away from the rest of the world over the last decade. So the U.S. is up dramatically where international has not kept up. And so this is an opportunity simply to close the gap. But also the dollar has been down. And when we're in the U.S. in dollar terms and the dollar goes down, by definition, our international investments are worth more. So it could be partly that the international stocks are going up and partly that the dollar is going down. And if that trend continues, you're going to want to definitely own international. And one theme that we see with people that are coming in as prospects at Peak, they oftentimes own no international.
I don't know if I do or don't. It's an interesting thing you pointed out to me. I don't really know. So I'm going to have to look. Look, here's the next thing. Apparently you've been out there being a keyboard warrior. You've been in a Facebook fight. Tell us about this Facebook fight you're in, Nick.
Yeah, it was a 24-hour story, Steve. We're not going to keep it into 2 days, but the Matt, the money guy, okay, you have the infographic there. You can see in the middle of the chart, He has the price for for a 4-year in-state school at $109,000, and I agree with that price today. Like Michigan, Michigan State, that's kind of where you are.
Wow.
If you're in-state, but the monthly investment of $315 is simply off. The actual price needs to be the actual monthly investment for a baby today needs to be closer to $600 per month, because he's simply not including inflation. If the price of $109,000, if that's the price today for college, what do you think it's going to be in 20 years? It's going to be nearly double. So it's not $315 per month, it's $600 per month. And when I just simply told him the price was $600 a month in the comments, didn't go well. There's a lot of back and forth. I want to say I was respectful, but I've been blocked and the post was deleted. So I'm just, look, this is a
wait.
great
You got canceled? Nick, you got canceled.
I did. Steve, this is a great infographic. Okay, it's beautiful. It has a lot of great information, but the information is wrong. So it just goes to show you can have more followers, but be putting out bad info just because you have a pretty chart.
Right. I'm crushed on that. Anyhow, let's see. We got about a minute here. You want to get into this next deal, the gap in consumer confidence? We got about 20 seconds. Let's throw up that last graphic for Nick real quick. It's the last one we're going to get to. Go ahead.
Steve, look at this chart. Look at 2020. Actually, look at 16 when Trump was elected. Look at the Republican, the red line, consumer confidence goes to the moon. And then look at 2020 with COVID, Republicans and Democrats, the chart goes down. But Republicans in 22 were lower than the lows of COVID, which is kind of silly. And right now, the Democrats are lower than the lows of COVID. So my call for everyone is to stop looking at everything through a political lens when it comes to the economy and our investments.
Here's what I want you to do. Folks, I want you to look through the lens of peakwm.com, peakwm.com/Gruber. Do it that way and get a second opinion from Nick. Nick, thank you. Great information today. Be polite on the internet, would you please?
Thank you, Steve. Well said.
peakwm.com/Gruber. I'll be right back. right, well, let's see here. Bill Maher is on his way to the White House. We're going to cover that in the next hour here on the program. A little more in detail. But Kid Rock put together this deal for Bill Maher, Bill Maher, to go to the White House. And, well, he's going. He's one of the harshest critics of Donald Trump that there is. Just rough on the president, right? Just rough on the president. But he says if the president invites you to the White House, you go. He's right about that. See, Bill Maher's one of those guys that I agree with about half the time and disagree with about half the time, and vehemently on both sides of that conversation. I think he's wildly wrong sometimes and absolutely spot on correct sometimes. That's the beauty of free speech, you see. Bill Maher and I agree right down the line on free speech. I think he's entitled to be an idiot whenever he wants, and he thinks I'm entitled to be an idiot whenever I want. How wonderful. You know what we call that, my friends? America. By the way, your morning deserves more than weak mass-produced coffee. You need a coffee with attitude, like me. 1775 coffee. Single origin, high altitude, hand-picked, roasted for bold, uncompromising flavor. No chemicals, no toxins. Frankly, just damn good coffee that fuels your day the right way. Go to 1775coffee.com/Gruber. Use the code Gruber. You'll save 10%. And every dollar you spend means an entry to win a Tesla Cybertruck and $30,000 in cash. I mean, don't be shy. Get a Tesla Cybertruck today and really tell the world something. Again, the place to go, 1775coffee.com. Promo code Gruber. Get entered for that Cybertruck. Have great coffee from Bolivia. The mountains of Bolivia. That's exactly right. Look at that coffee. It's here. Look at it. Every day, right there in the mug. Got to bring it all the way in. Woo! Look at that magic cup. All right. Let's see. Coming up in the next hour, David Lowery will be for Project 21. And Ken Davis, senior attorney, as the former deputy attorney general for Virginia, talks about Bidenflation still stinging American consumers like you. We'll get all of that. Don't forget, follow me on Twitter. Follow me on Facebook. Do your part. It's the Steve Gruber Show.